With 21 goals and 33 assists in 37 games, William Nylander is not only a valuable part of the Toronto Maple Leafs, but he is also a fan favourite, which makes it all the more exciting he is staying in Toronto long term. Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel where I talk Toronto sports from Scotland. Make sure to like this video and subscribe if you haven't already, and let's jump straight into today's topic, which is the William Nylander contract extension. Is he worth the money? Is it a good deal? What do we think? So realistically, the Toronto Maple Leafs are held together by their core group made up of Austin Matthews, Mitch Marner, John Tavares and William Nylander. Nylander was selected 8th overall in 2014 by the Leafs, and with the Matthews extension creating some sort of long-term security for this group, everyone has been waiting to hear the news on what's going to happen with Nylander. And then Elliotte Friedman on Saturday night reported that the 8-year extension will likely have an AAV of $11.5 million. And so it was announced today that William Nylander is staying a Toronto Maple Leaf for the next 8 years on $11.5 million per year. Not only was this deal speculated by Elliotte Friedman, but after the game on Saturday night, Nylander was asked about the prospect of signing long term in Toronto, and he said, "That would be a dream to stay here. I mean, to play for such an organisation, and I call Toronto home, so I think that'd be a very special feeling." The contract begins next season, and it puts Nylander among the highest paid forwards in the entire NHL. It does seem a high price to pay, but he is in the top 10 in scoring right now in the league, and 54 points in 37 games is certainly an impressive feat, and that's going to come with a high cost, especially when you consider that just last season he had his career high of 87 points in the 22-23 season. However, concerns about the price tag are only amplified by the fact that both Mitch Marner and John Tavares are eligible for new contracts after July 1st, and they'll become UFAs after next season. And I think that is a scary thought, because realistically then you're only having 2 of the core really locked up and the other 50% are still, walking into free agency, which doesn't seem great. And obviously 8 years is a long term for somebody. You don't know what somebody's going to perform like 8 years from now. You can usually predict what they'll be like in the next few seasons, but 8 years is a long time. A lot can change, injuries can happen, teams can change, new prospects can come through, there might be a new guy that you'd want on the team, but realistically there's too much money locked up in that contract and you can't do it. There's definitely pros and cons to having your core guys locked up for as long as that, because the negative of a contract of that length is the fact that you don't know if they're still going to be worth that much come the 6th, 7th or the 8th year. And of course, as with any signing, you might come to regret it further down the line, because you can only really make a judgment based on what you have right now. And if this were the peak in Nylander's career and it were to take a downward trajectory after here, then obviously that would be a bit of a concern. However, I really don't think that's going to be the case for a start, and there also is a lot of pros that come with it. If we're being honest, 8 years just might be the length of term that Nylander put on the table and said, I'm only going to sign if it's for this length of time. If a player likes playing for a team and they're dedicated to them and they want that extra security, then it makes sense why you'd have a longer term, and ultimately it's better to sign somebody and it be for a long term than let somebody go because you didn't want to give them that. And it probably is about time that the Leafs start locking up their core group for a longer term than they have been. Really provide some sort of excitement about the future. They've really modelled this era of the team around this group, and so you kind of need to be locking them down, otherwise your entire sort of idea of the team crumbles. And also, there is actually nothing wrong with having quite a high contract price, because the salary cap is going up next year. It's going up from $83.5 million, which it is currently, up to $87.675 million, which does make space for a contract like this to happen. It does add some wiggle room that a salary cap increase wouldn't allow for. And as I just said, Tavares and Marner are both up for a new contract soon, so we could see some sort of decrease there. Mitch Marner is a bit of a different story, but certainly John Tavares, he's on a very high contract right now, and that is almost certainly going to decrease. I really do hope that the Leafs keep him. I want Tavares to be a Leaf until he retires, but He will need to take a pay cut in order to do so. He is getting older and his contract value has definitely decreased since the last time. So realistically, any reduction in Tavares' $11 million contract is going to add more cap space as well for a contract such as Nylander's. Mitch Marner is a bridge that we'll cross to when we get to it. Mitch Marner is a sort of different topic. That's a topic for another day because we're talking about Nylander today. Of course, the main argument in all this is always that the Leafs spend too much money on their core group and it doesn't leave enough for elsewhere. And especially the goaltending issues that the Leafs have had lately. Of course, there have been problems, you know. Sammy just completely entered this mental rut. My heart breaks for that guy so much. And of course, Wall is still out injured, but Martin Jones is extremely impressive. I really rate that guy, and I think the goalie depth that we have, which I know I touched on in a video sometime before, I can't remember. I make a lot of videos. I did talk about the fact that I love the Leafs goaltending depth this season, and that really has panned out well, because to have your goalie tandem that you start with, both of them no longer starting for you and playing for you, and still you're doing okay in terms of goaltending, I think that's super impressive. Full credit to Martin Jones. Anyway, that was a little bit of a tangent. Circling back, the main area that people always say the Leafs should be investing in is goaltending, but if you look at the goalie market right now, who are you actually going to spend that money on? You can only spend money on guys that are free and available and feasible for you to get, and I'm just not too sure where the Leafs could even put that extra money in terms of goaltending, so they're better wrapping it up in a guy that we know produces really effectively, he's successful for the team, he's really dedicated. That money is far better going to a player like him than just sort of picking some wildcard goaltender just to try and add more depth, even though there is goaltending depth. Same goes for other areas of the team. If you decide that you're going to invest the extra cap space money in some other player that you don't know what they're going to perform like, then you could argue that you're better putting that money on making sure that Nylander stays in Toronto. Am I rambling? I feel like I'm kind of rambling a bit. I really hope this is making sense. It's making sense in my head anyway. And overall, I do just think that Nylander is completely worth that term and that money. You have to reach a point where you ask yourself, how much do you want that player on the team? And I just think Nylander is such a great player that you have to lock him up. And as long as it's even slightly feasible for you to do so, you try and get it done. And I think that's exactly what the Leafs have done here. I think Nylander has clearly set out and said, you know, I want a long term, this is the money I want. I mean, would I have liked it to have been 10 million? Of course I would. 10 million I think would have been perfect, but if that's the price that Nylander has put on the table and said, this is my asking price, I think you've got to take it. He's far too good to give him up. I feel the same way about this as I did the Matthews extension. You've just got to get it done. If you've got a valuable player who you know you want to keep, you have to do what it takes to keep them, and I think that's exactly what the Leafs are doing here, and I love to see it, I have to say. So let me know in the comments down below, what do you think about the Nylander contract extension? Do you think he's worth it? Would you have liked to have seen that money put elsewhere? If so, tell me what you think. Thank you so much for watching, and as always, I'll be back soon with more Toronto sports chats from across the pond. Bye guys.